Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us for a wee lunchtime power hour here on the Bhoycie Bus. Well, it's happened. The inevitable has came. The moment has arrived. Celtic find themselves managerless as Ange takes himself down to the bright lights and big cash of London and the EPL. So we're going to chew over the fat, and I couldn't be joined by a better bunch today. We've got our high-flying tourist up there, Johnny Logue. And of course, down the bottom, man needs no introduction, it's Canada's favourite Tim. It is the punk duck warlord himself, Greenlaw. How are we, boys? Are you all good?
Aye. Yeah, I'm all good.
Looking forward to getting into it, are we?
Sure are.
Well, where are you from today, John?
Oh, I'm just at boring old Lincoln today. I'm just at home today. I'm not
That's how we managed to get him in. He was about to jet off, so we got hold of him today, and I thank you for getting that. Listen, before we crack on, guys, be quick bit of housekeeping. You're watching us on YouTube. Thank you as always. If you haven't already, take 2 seconds, flip over, hit the subscribe button. That way you'll get notified every time. If you like what we do, give the video a thumbs up, and if you want to go a wee bit crazy, you can even share it. It just helps us reach out further. If you want to be a Bhoycie Bus member, and you can, it's completely optional for $1.99. Doesn't get you any extra content. It just helps us pay for running the show. And there's many out there, and we are grateful for it. If you want to check us out, we're elsewhere. We're on EPL Index. We're on Acast. We're also on all other streaming services such as Spotify and the likes. And get yourself involved on our Twitter, official Bhoycie Bus Twitter. You'll find all our handles on there if you want to follow us out with there. And again, you'll be updated accordingly. 2 sponsors that we've got to mention. The first is PieSports.com, our usual long-standing sponsor. 12.5% off when you use Bus 1888 at checkout. And our second sponsor that we have, our more recent sponsor, the one that gives everybody a wee bit of a laugh, is, of course, ED Pharmacy. Get yourself over ED Pharmacy and put in Bus 10 at checkout for 10% off your prescription order there. So you might have fallen on hard times as a manager's left, but you can guarantee ED Pharmacy you'll be in for some hard times of the good time. So, without further ado, guys, we says the big news. I don't need to tell you. That's why you're all here. Ange has set sail, or at least he's jumped on a train or a plane, and took himself down there. And possibly Kennedy, possibly Strachan about to follow. We'll get into the meat and the bones of that. We'll pick it out, and we'll look at some of the candidates that have been getting bandied about in a wee bit more depth rather than just, I quite like the look of him. We'll look at their actual results. We'll look at a wee bit about them and what they've achieved. But let's try and start on a slightly positive note, guys. I've not seen any of you since we won our treble at the weekend. Fairly decent result against Inverness at 3-1. Just want a wee quick, what did you guys think it? Did you take in the game? Were you happy? Start with yourself, Johnny. Did you manage to get a look at the game there, mate?
Yeah, I got home in time to see the game on Saturday. I think I was possibly one of the few Celtic supporters that was quite happy to see it getting put back to 5:30, because I knew that by the time I got to Heathrow, I could give me the time to drive back up the road to see the game.
Silver lining, mate, yeah.
We've always got to look for it, mate. But yeah, I watched the game, a little bit jet lagged on it, but yeah, I watched the game. I thought it was a bit slower tempo than I expected it to be. I thought we'd be a bit more out the blocks and really blow them away in the first 30 minutes or so, or whatever. Didn't quite pan out that way, obviously. Once we got the goal, I didn't think there was any. To be honest, fair. I don't think we were ever in any real danger at all. Not even after they pulled one back. But I think once we scored the first goal, it was inevitable how the game was going to finish.
Yeah.
It just enjoyed the game as it was. The fact that we won it, but there was always that little thing in the background. You kept looking for signs that the body language experts, which I'm obviously not, and you were just thinking, he's going to be gone by 2 or 3 days. It turned out it was obviously quicker than that, but so that kind of tempered it a little bit for me. But just enjoyed the moment anyway. Treble, finishing another treble, clinches a world record, which really, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't mean a lot, but it's just a nice little thing to be able to see and now and again, isn't it?
That's a good way to go out. And yourself, Liam, any thoughts on the game on a positive before this immediate negative thereafter?
I mean, the only positive thing I can see out of it was just a personal thing at the Vancouver club. We were absolutely rammed for the game. We've not had numbers like that since COVID, which was really, really interesting. There was about 25 people showed up that we'd never seen before, all over Vancouver and that. And so, it's so anticlimactic in a way. You're starting to get fans that you've built the fan base back up, and then whoosh, right out from under you, they pull the carpet. We that, but. I mean, that part was good. It was nice being in a full club again. Forgot what it was like to watch a game when it was really noisy, in a bar. And so that part is positive. And everything else, well, it didn't put a damper on the game, but immediately after, all the talk was, is he staying there? Is he going? And that's the first time where the treble's not been the main point of conversation. It was all about Ange, and I don't think you can hide the fact that it changed the narrative of the game completely, of the day. He's for a guy that was like so Celtic focused and all that as well. He really I just want to concentrate and enjoy today. Well, I don't think a lot of people did get a chance to enjoy it as much as they should, because again, with this thing going on in the back, that ended up being true. So, but overall, I thought we played well, but we looked like a team that was in a wee bit turmoil. We looked like we were distracted, and we all know what those distractions are.
Listen, it's disappointing. I think, you, I and everybody else can go through. You saw the faces. You saw Shotty, Logue and Dermot Desmond with the long faces, just off the back of your trophy lift. And there was a wee undercurrent, wasn't there? That folks seemed to know the long embrace between Jota and Postecoglou, things like this, if you want to go down that body language route. But hey-ho, it has happened. I think at the time, after the Aberdeen game, I felt that the speech looked more like a man who was reflecting on what he had done rather than what he wanted to do. And I hung my hat out and said that I was going to wait and hear what the speech was again. And I wasn't surprised when I heard that at Parkhead, it was a very sombre, reflective kind of atmosphere. And the writing was on the wall, wasn't it? But listen, let's get in here. I can see the comments are coming in. We've got 104 of you guys live at the moment. We will get around. We'll be bringing up your comments as we go along. It's polarising. It's literally happened a couple of hours ago, even though we knew it was happening. And the fan base is really chopped right down the middle, are we not? I want to get around everybody. I want to get you guys' thoughts on it, how you feel about him leaving. And I'll give you my wee, for what it's worth, what I think about it. And where are you guys at? If you look online, for some, he goes with the best well wishes. We thank him for his service. He was loyal. He was honest. For other guys, he's went from Messiah to money grabber, God to gravy guzzler. What is it? That's football fandom. Football fans are fickle. We're emotional. But that's our gift, is it not? Some people feel angry and folk are saying, getting carried away here, you're acting like a jilted lover. But we invest our love, our time, and we're passionate. Football means more to us. And whereas you can't compare losing a football manager to having a partner leave you, for example, there is wee parallels, surely, is there not? You invest in something. The only difference is when you maybe get involved in a relationship, you hope that it's going to last forever. With football, you know that there's a time limit put on it, but it doesn't make it any less raw, does it, John?
No, it doesn't. And the way I'm feeling about it is, as I said on Sunday, I think it was when we were on the Sunday Blether, I was convinced before the game that he was going. I'd even had my fears about Spurs actually coming in from the minute. It was quite obvious there was problems with Conte down at Spurs before they eventually went their separate ways. And as I said on Sunday, when Regan dropped the bombshell about the Australian lad who's now head of football operations or whatever the job title they've given him down at Spurs, that's when the alarm bells really started to clang away in my head. I thought, they're going to come for him. And so, for me, he goes with my best wishes. I've put a message on our group chat, firmly putting my colours to the mast. I loved Ange, still do. Loved every single minute he was with us. Yes, we all lapped up everything he said to us. I said at one point he could read the yellow pages at a press conference and I would probably still sit and listen to it. And we all lapped it up. Some of us maybe more than others. But I did disagree, obviously, at times. I thought he's got that wrong. He's picked the wrong team for that. When he was insistent that he wouldn't play Kyogo. He would play Kyogo instead of Giakoumakis when we were all screaming for that. Or when he point blank refused to play the two of them together at the same time and let us see how they could form as a partnership. I hated all of that. I'm a bit disappointed that there's obviously a lot of supporters who have turned completely full circle against him. Saying, a year ago they'd used his shite for toothpaste and his piss for mouthwash, and now they've changed it completely the other way. And he's a rat, he's a snake, he's this, that, and the next thing. He's only done what we all knew was going to happen at some point. And does it really matter whether this talk about if he just stayed for one more year? Well, what would be the point of that? How much investment would Celtic given him to stay one more year?
Yep.
We were talking about would they back him fully before this all came about, while he's on a 1 year rolling contract. If he said, I'll stay for one more year, then I'm definitely going, that'd have put the brakes on any investment straight away. We'd have been even less, we'd been even more underwhelmed with the upcoming transfer window rather than if it's not this year, it'll never be that we were talking about before. So I'm disappointed he's going. I hope he does well down at Spurs, and I think he will do as well.
Yeah. No, as I say, you're certainly in that camp, which many are, as we've seen, as we mix through the comments. There's, as I say, it's completely split down the middle. It's very sort of divisive subject, and one way or another, there's no right or wrong reaction. We can't be telling people how you should be reacting to this kind of news. There is no one size fits all. It's to the individual. Now, you've made a few points here, and I want to come to yourself with them there, Liam. We spoke about when he came in, and he came in on the 1 year rolling contract, which absolutely helped us out at that time, and it was convenient for us. Do you think that by doing that, we instantly weakened our position with Ange Postecoglou and almost set out our stall that there was very little belief in it? And do you think that that's made it harder at the end of the last season, the first season, when he was successful, and even getting into these negotiations midway through this current season, it made it harder to get him to buy in and be on side? Do you think that Celtic shot themselves in the foot to begin with, and, to put it lightly, they get what they deserve?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think with Ange coming in, with what Ange had on his resume and all that, yeah, it was uninspiring. It wasn't, it wasn't something that got us going. And the way he started as well, you could see we were kept telling that there was like advantage in playing this way, and we were going to see something develop in front of us. And so, yeah, 1 year rolling contract, that's good business. That's good business in any sense. Who wanted to, be like three-year payout for somebody that just came and couldn't even settle in Scotland? Coming for the other side of the world as well. I mean, his family just might have hated the lack of sunshine or something, coming for Australia and Japan and all that. That, Glasgow can be a very grey place, and not everybody's built for that sort of thing. I see it when people move to Vancouver from places like Brazil and stuff like that, is it really does affect them, because that lack of sunshine and the rain all the time, can definitely set you off. But to have a 1 year rolling contract with him, well, usually that's just a safety measure at first. And then as soon as any signs of aptitude at that point, you then get a contract on the table to go a wee bit more extended. And I'm sure we probably tried to do that. I mean, we've got people in the boardroom are supposedly quite clever. And I think the new ones that are in there, I'm sure there was a contract put in front of Ange a few times and that. And yeah, I think that probably was the way. Did it weaken us? Yeah, it probably did, but I never ever felt at any point over the last six months that we were in a weak position with Ange as our manager. every soundbite, everything that he was coming across, or the chest bumping, all that sort of stuff, there was absolutely, for me, it didn't seem that it was any division. You know, pictures of him and Leo and Nico and all that, the way that was released, it looked like they were working on something to galvanise the future. It didn't look like they were having like a, well, you know, see you later, I'm doing the road sort of conversation. So I don't know. I don't think it weakened us. I think we're in a situation right now where, yeah, Ange just had his head turned, and and like you, Johnny, I'm bitter. I'm emotional. I get emotionally invested in Celtic, and I didn't see this one coming. And I think, again, it's all the talk. If you just shut up and manage and all that, but see all this quoting Tommy Burns and stuff like that. I think that's what's made me bitter. It's what's made me bitter is all that. I just want to enjoy the treble today. I want to be able to take that in. And I know it sounds selfish. No, it was fucking selfish. Because we didn't get to enjoy the treble because you've got us in pins and needles not knowing what to do. No,
I hear what you're saying there, Liam. And sorry to jump in, I just think that's a big thing that's getting a lot of people. And this is, if you crystallise it, people, and Bhoycie said that, all these sound bites, all these quotes, all these kind of things, he's saying it, he's not necessarily selling, but a lot of people are buying. And Bhoycie says if they allowed themselves to be led down a garden path and think that this is the Messiah who's never going to leave, who's never ambitious, who doesn't want to forward himself on, then they've only yourself to blame. But as you says, and I said, football fans are emotional. We invest and we do buy in, and that will never change. That will happen time over time again. It'll happen with the next manager, probably. It'll happen with the one after him, so on and so forth. The one thing I want to touch on, you said about all the chest pumping and the quotes and all that. I mentioned this through the week, and I says, I think the term I used for it was, I thought it was disarming. What Ange done was, he came in and he knew that he was second, third choice. He was down the pecking order in terms of getting the job. And he was, quite put it lightly, he was a man that landed his feet and he was just quite happy to be there, right? So he came in, and I've no doubt, listen, I've looked at interviews and stuff he's done before, apart from the crazy one on the Australian TV where he was like, he was raging. But apart from that, he's always came across as a humble, sort of down-to-earth type of guy. And I've not seen anything to doubt that for as the fact. But he came in and he played it as the everyday man. He didn't go for the, I know everything about this club and I'm a fan or any stuff like that, because he couldn't come at it for this angle. He came at it for the angle of, and I know what it's like, growing up as an immigrant, poor, struggling. I can relate to the origins of the club. Then he invests in the club, so he goes and he finds out about the club, and I imagine he'll probably do that with Spurs as well. I think he loves football and he wants to find out about the team he's at, so he invests in the team in the here and now. But do you think by using and dropping on all these wee things, the quoting Tommy Burns and all this, I can relate to you? As I say, it's disarming. It makes him seem non-threatening to the stage where people lose sight that he is a football manager who wants to go to the next level. And that will come, and it has come. So it's almost like hiding in plain sight, I would say. But I want to ask you a question, because I think all these things contributed to it. Everybody is saying, but he stayed to the end of the season. He done the honourable thing. Now, I'm going to ask you a simple question. Start with yourself, John. If he was offered that job 2-3 months, even January, does he still leave? Personally, I think of course he does. I think he only lasted the entire season because there wasn't an offer on the table to ask the question, to turn his head until that late down the line. I think Spurs were a shit show. They knew that it wasn't going to improve, and they were happy to just see out the season and start building for fresh. What do you think of that? Do you think he would have been in the same position?
Well, you're asking us, would he have done what Brendan done?
Exactly, yes.
I got no idea. Honestly got no idea. I think, did Regan not just recently put something up on our chat saying that apparently he knocked back Brighton. He did actually knock back Brighton. I'm sure I seen Regan put that up there just not long before we came on air. Now, I don't know where Regan's got that information from or how accurate it is. So that would indicate maybe not. You say that Spurs, when they got rid of Conte, Spurs were still in a position to qualify top 4. They decided to go, for whatever reason, with the guy who was Conte's assistant, who made a right arse of it and dropped him out of it like a stone. Then they got rid of him and they went with. So I think if Spurs had come in as soon as they got rid of Conte, we need you to come here and it's now or never. And there's however many millions of pounds it is a year he's going to get paid. It might have been tempting for him. Who knows? Impossible to answer that question, Stevo, but he'd have been tempted, I think, at that kind of money. If they were to say, apparently Rodgers said that he wanted to stay to the end of the season, but Leicester said, well, it's now or never. And Rodgers decided to take the now rather than the never. Although I think Rodgers could have waited. I think he'd have got a better position, a better option than Leicester, if I'm being honest. I know Leicester weren't a bad option, don't get me wrong. But would Ange get a better option than Spurs if he'd been offered it in March and knocked it back? Mm-hmm. He might have done. I don't know. Impossible to answer that question, I'm afraid, mate. But I think he might have been. I think any man we'd like to think that he would just say no, we'll wait. But we're Celtic supporters. We've been born and brought up Celtic supporters. We're, as Liam says, we're emotionally involved in it, and we, in our emotional brain, can't understand why anybody would ever want to leave us.
Absolutely.
But what we've got to recognise and realise that Ange, although he played the system, if you want to say that, he came in. He wasn't a Celtic man. He never ever claimed to have sat up in the middle of the night watching Celtic playing. He did say that he'd watched the likes of Liverpool with his dad and Real Madrid. So he's not invested in the way we are, regardless of his position at the club. I think he might have gone, actually. I don't know.
Yeah. No,
the money talks, mate.
It's just about coming in here. I want to ask you just a take on that. It's pretty much the same question yourself, Liam. As he says, is there this misconception that, I'm not saying he didn't, but is it a misconception that he stayed to the end of the season because he wanted to do the honourable thing? Remember, this is a guy who walked out on Marinos halfway through to join Celtic. And why? Because he was given a bigger platform to do his job on. He didn't really care about leaving them. So why would we be any different? Because let's face it, Celtic, in terms of history and being an iconic side, are a bigger side, no doubt about it, than Tottenham. However, Tottenham are a bigger proposition and they're a bigger platform. So, again, ask you, does he leave if he was asked that question earlier? Are we fooling ourselves that he wanted to stay about and finish the job?
I don't think we're fooling ourselves. It's what he told us. Everything that he pitched when he came in was that I'm not here just to come in and win a couple of points and win a few games and get you past lines and stuff like that. Like other managers have came in and done a good job at doing that. No, what Ange wanted to come and present us was a football philosophy. That he wanted to start something with this club where we would create a system and an identity that we would use to play it, and that would be how we express ourselves. And everything that he talked about, don't judge me on my first couple of games, or don't judge me on this season. Judge me on next season. Don't judge me on this Europe, because in this Europe we're finding out and we're learning for next year's Europe. And all that sort of lip service that was given to us, and then that wasn't his intent all along. So I think that was the thing with Ange. I put my guard down. I got my guard down where I think, there's nothing to worry about with this guy. This guy, he's bringing in players on 5-year deals. He's setting up relationships with Japan. I don't know how much all this is at.
Yeah.
This could be Wilson or Mark Lowell for all I know. But, he's setting up these tours of Australia and Japan. And that showed to me that he had involvement in the club, that he was much deeper integrated into the club, in which, we found out it wasn't. And I'm sure at some point he was, but I don't know. The fact that it switched like that, his head was turned so quickly and spinning is just, I mean, that's where it leaves me. So, was I expecting to stay forever? No. But I was expecting him to at least make an attempt to finish some of the things that he promised. I mean, he was brought to us with a gamble, and what he sold us on was all this great thing that he was going to build, and it looked as if we were building towards that. And then for him to be the first one to bail out, be the first one to say, right, I'm off, I've got a deal down south. I mean, I imagine his players more pissed off right now than I am. People, he had to give a big, strong sales pitch to recruit that maybe could have been going down to England or could have had an offer in Portugal, or, and Ange is giving them the speech, no, stay with me, we're going to build this up and we're going to build this up. I know, that's the... Yeah. No. I thought, would he have left mid-season? Fuck, who knows now? I didn't think he would, but now I'm inclined to think, now he's just a mercenary. Oh, he's tainted with me now. It's like, okay, he's just... I don't watch English Premier League, so I'll see him if he pops up for doing something, like something outrageous or that, but that's my radar anywhere.
That comes back to what we were saying, what we spoke about previously on this. He was given the tools largely, as far as we could see, at a level of autonomy. Don't get me wrong, there's some signings that he'd probably nothing to do with, that he maybe just signed off on based on data. But where does that leave us? That was always my concern. He signed players, or shall we say, players signed for him. He brought in folk from the J-League that he knew, and I have no doubt he sold their vision to. I would like to think, from what you generally see of players from Japan and the Asian background, that there seems to be a work ethos and a common human decency around these players, that now that he's left, I wouldn't expect them to down tools and take the hump, because that seems to be more of a European player trait. It's fair to say. So I'm kind of hopeful that those guys will be disappointed but can be picked up by the new manager. But where does that leave us, John? Because we've got these guys who have no doubt been signed as part of some long-term vision that he's maybe sold to them and have maybe signed for him that we wouldn't otherwise get. Does that make it harder for us or for a new manager coming in the door to get the same level of investment off it? And also as well, guys were signed for a very, very specific style of play. Do you see enough in these players to adapt to, say, somebody who comes in with a completely different style?
Well, they're all good footballers, so they should be able to adapt. But then, you get good footballers who are good in certain positions and they can't adapt to a different position. Starfelt was a classic example. He had to adapt his game because he's not an actual left footer, but that's where he plays. It's where Ange insists that he plays. Whether we're going to go down the road and get somebody who's similar to Ange in his style, and things such as inverted fullback seems to be becoming a little bit more of a common theme. Liverpool are even starting to play around with it as well now. Man City, obviously. I was always kind of puzzled as to how Ange managed to talk these guys, whether it was the Japanese lads or whether it was any of the others, but like such as Jota, to commit to a 5-year deal when he was only committed to a rolling contract. That always puzzled me, and I think we did talk about it once on the bus when I mentioned it. I think it was just after we signed Maeda or Hatate and that. How does he do it? But then, it's like I said, I'm not so concerned about the Japanese lads. I think because the word you didn't use there when you were talking about them, Stevo, is a word that the Japanese are quite very fond of, is honour. I think they do seem to have more of an honour about them, the Japanese culture in general.
There's a respect there.
Yeah, so I think they would potentially stay, so long as they're getting game time, of course. It's all going to come down to game time for them and who the next manager is, and I know we're going to talk about that later on.
Yeah, minutes.
I think there's enough in the players to adapt. There might even be one or two players who'll be glad to see the back of Ange, so they don't have to try and adapt to that. Burnaby, for example.
He needs an ability transplant first, mate.
Yeah, you're probably right there. So yeah, I think there's enough about them. Depends on who the next manager is, how many he actually wants to keep, who he wants to. Because I'm sure there'll be some that he'll want to move on. There's going to be 2 or 3 that we would probably see move on whether Ange stayed or not. I'm not necessarily talking about the Japanese lads. I'm just talking about the squad in general and including some first team players.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they'd be able to adapt. And of course, it's all going to depend on who we have and who stays.
Yeah.
And who the coaching staff is. We won't talk too much about the other coaching staff at the minute, mate, because I know you're going to talk about potential incomers anyway. We'll leave that for later.
Right, go. No, just before we move on, because I want to get into the candidates because, there's nothing we can do. He's off. But just ever so quickly from yourself there, Liam, just on what I asked John, if you any concerns around the players getting picked back up, or as I say, he's been able to adapt to a new style, do you think they maybe feel like fans that they've been sold a pipe dream just for somebody to walk away from them?
Well, I think you could see it in the reaction of the players over the last 5 games. Since we actually won it, mathematically, we were looking at it as a drop-off, that maybe they were, complacent in that. But no, obviously, there was buzz and stuff going on behind the scenes, and you could see it in the way the players were playing. I think the players, I think that some players are going to be happy. I'm seeing in the, on the side here on the post that like Turnbull was really happy in the weekend. That was the first time anybody's seen him smile. Don't think he was a big Ange fan. I'm sure Giacomakis is sitting in Atlanta right now, cracking open a bottle of Ouzo, a couple of Mythos. And he's like, no, good riddance to that prick as well. Because I think Giacomakis got unfairly treated in that way. I mean, like wanting game time when Ange was sticking with Kyogo because he was trying to figure something out, and we were desperately looking for goals in the Champions League, and the big man was in a rich vein of form. By the way, I think that's one of the things that Ange could struggle with, because given his first, Ange has never worked with marquee players, other than what you got Celtic that, and they weren't marquee players. They developed into marquee players, and because of our fan base, their name was up in the lights. But wait till he gets a Harry Kane or an EPL star banging at his door and like, listen, I'm not getting playing time right now, and Kyogo's no firing. He's missing a dozen chances, and we only get 6 at this level. And, you need to change it up, or whatever it was. I'm sure that wasn't what Giacomakis said to him, but, but to get rid of a quality striker that quick because he disagreed with you or because he made a wee bit of noise, you're going to need a lot thicker skin than that. And when you start, you want to sign a Neymar of the world and that, get used to it. You're going to have conflict. And for you to get guys at the door with absolutely shite compensation, what happened with GG, I mean, we could have got a lot more. All we had to do was put into the rest of this.
About it, mate.
What's that?
I say there's no doubt about it. I agree, and I think that's something, again, as we talk, don't want to focus on him going to Spurs, but I think he's going to have to readapt maybe how he approaches things. I think if he goes down there and starts all the chat about bleary-eyed, grown up watching, I'm sure he watched Spurs in a cup final at some point and stuff, and he was away and watched the football with my dad. No disrespect, it's genuine stories, and he's maybe a bit of a storyteller, but let's face it, they just want fuck up, mate, and win games. So I think he might need to reassess how he does that, and he certainly won't be turned around saying, if you don't want to be here, I'll sell you, because there's a higher value attached to these players, and they don't want to be inviting in low ball offers. I said if he doesn't want to be here, he can piss off. So yeah, he's going to have to adapt, and it'll be interesting whether you care or not to see how that pans out. One thing I would say is, everybody talks about he's going to raid Celtic for the players. Honestly, I don't think so. File under Rodgers was going to do the same. Managers buy the best they can at the level they're at. And for me, there's potential in a lot of that Celtic squad, but they're not quite there yet to go into the kind of games. Just my take on it. But listen, we move on. everything moves on. So there's many names getting bandied about, and I just want to do a wee bit of a sort of deep dive about it. I'll just ask you both a quick fire. Who would you want out of all the names that are out there? And then we'll break down some of the names that we are talking about. What about yourself, Johnny? One name.
Rogers.
Does it tickle your balls a return of Roland?
It's not a case of tickling my balls. It's a case of he's been here before. He knows what's required. He knows the league. He's a winner. He's a born winner. He's a good manager. It doesn't matter what we think about him for what he's done before, because I know a lot of people are going to be choking on their coffees or whatever at the minute. But there's going to be just as many who'll be just like me and say he's a winner. He knows the league. He knows the club. He knows what he needs to do.
Yep. He's
big enough stature to attract players, and he's a big enough stature to keep players.
Absolutely.
And I think he's a no risk, or he's the least, because anybody you go for is going to be a risk. It just depends how big a risk or a gamble you're willing to take, how much you willing to put, how much of your dollars are you willing to put on black. That's all it is. But I think he's the least risk, and I would go for Rogers.
Yeah. And yourself, Liam? Quick fire name.
Steven Gerrard knows the city, knows the league.
Yeah,
We'll be box office.
What are you thinking? Talk to me.
You know what? I never gave it a lot of thought before. I wasn't even anticipating us going into this season looking for a new manager.
Yeah.
I don't know. Brendan concerns me. I thought his signing policy was off. He bought us a lot of crap as well, and I don't know. So it's that hit and miss. Like, he just throws things and see if they'll stick. There's no real. Whereas Nans did a very good job of being tactically aware and getting right players, right position. He didn't have many misses. The Rodgers thing, it's like going back with an ex. I've heard that for a lot of people as well, and I guess there's people that haven't been back with an ex and don't know how that works out. But usually,
I did see a few folks saying that and saying never go back, but it was some ride. So.
Don't get wrong, right, Liam. I tend to agree with you on that one. I've said on here before in the past when we've talked about usually with players. I think second time arounds don't always work out. But I'm just going from the names that are on that sheet and what the names that are getting bandied around on the betting things that you see online. And generally, you're right. I mean, I don't think when Charlie Nicholas came back, it was never the same as a player. When we took him back from Aberdeen, but I just think Rodgers is probably the best option out of those that are on offer or available.
He's
lots of names, hasn't there?
He's probably the best option on paper, but I think emotionally there's still. I mean, you can't believe him anymore. Just like if Ange came back as well, too, like all this, I'm here for you, and all these stories now, every single one of them has a view of skepticism about it. No matter what story he tells us now about, 2/3 or a third of the support are going, aye, right, pull the other one. I mean, I think this damages us with our relationship with managers and what we invest in the supporters as well. Like, we bought into all the Rodgers pish. We've bought into all the Ange stuff, and these are people coming from Rodgers says he grew up supporting Celtic, but I don't know. We keep letting ourselves getting filled in, but that's who we are. We're loud. We're that walk on at the end of the game on Saturday. I mean, even that. Like, I was watching the players standing there looking at around the park, and that was us not knowing that was going to be a tribute walk on or like a farewell walk on. It might have even been louder if he was leaving with just with a wee bit more grace in what he left, and we could have really made the thing. But that's our support. Our support getting engaged, we get involved and we get emotional. And then when we get managers that do the same, we're like, oh no. So I'm looking to see what we could get in. I think Brendan comes back and he brings in some sort of continuity, but that continuity is fractured as well. I think we need a new face in there. Well, and I've seen the list, and I would, just like any interview process, I would want to see what it is, what they want to bring to the table and what their plan is. But again, if we're getting a 5-year plan out of somebody, You don't want a 6-month rolling contract. So we've got to be really, really clever at this point and figure it, be certain at who we want to manage our club, and that it's going to be a building.
So see, with that, I just want to come in and push back a wee bit. See, talking about 5-year plans and 4-year plans, again, it's of personal opinion. For me, I think that's as big a pipe dream as any, because football managers are a commodity and they're in high demand, and it's been quickly shown that with Postecoglou, with Rodgers, even guys like Martin Neal and stuff, if you're doing well, you're going to attract attention. So I'm very much, I can remove myself for the fan aspect with the bleary glasses on and look at it for the business perspective. And I just want the best for Celtic. I want the best manager with the best skill set who's going to attract the best players possible to come in. I don't care if Brendan Rodgers has hurt your feelings, right? That's it. Sometimes we've just got to toughen up and get on with it. Now, no matter how you feel about him, you can't deny that he's a superior manager. He's one of the best that's out there. He still is at the bracket of a world record transfer or buyout fee for a manager of football, and that's for a reason. He's out of job. That will never go away. So I just want to break down, as I say, we'll go through. We'll just start with Rodgers. We've briefly touched on it, but as if you didn't know, let's just have a look at it. So a lot of people I'm seeing out there are basing on their stats and who they've managed and stuff. So I've done a wee sort of brief spell at it. The key figures: he went to Leicester, 204 games, 96 wins, 37 draws, 7 losses, averaging just over 1.5 points per game, won the FA Cup, won the Charity Shield. Success, yes. Where did the problems go? Similar to Celtic, when the money stopped drying out. Prior to Liverpool, 166, 85 wins, 39 draws, 42 losses. Second in the Premier League, LMA Manager of the Year. And then if you look further down, won the playoffs with Swansea. Celtic, invincible treble, League Cup double, 4 Manager of the Year, 63-game unbeaten run with an all-over career. Win rate of 50%, 22% draws, 28 losses. Huge experience. And whether folk want to use the term elite level and dictate that by being in the Premier League or otherwise, he has got the experience. And I think for me, the pros, vast experience, proven winner, he would be attractive to players wanting to come in because he's a big name. And for me, the kicker, a name like him suggests we're serious and we're going to spend money. The cons speak for themselves. Upset fans. And as I said, short term. He's maybe only been another 2 years and then he moves on. But do we look at the here and now? Is that the most important thing, John? Looking at Rodgers, and I've just read off his CV quick fire there.
Everything you've just said there, all it does, but I didn't realise his record is actually quite as strong as it is, because obviously he's taken in his full career. But we're going to have to look for the here and now, because I think I put in our group this morning, 2 years is going to be the lifespan of a Celtic manager on average from now on. They're either going to be, after 2 years, they've done what Ange's done. They've won everything or won nearly everything, and somebody from a bigger, and I hate to use the term bigger club, because I hate to think of any club that is bigger than us, but you have to be realistic, but from a bigger league are going to come in and take them off us.
Absolutely.
Or if after 2 years, or even less than 2 years, if they're shit, we're going to sack them.
Yeah.
So I think we're now looking at a 2-year life expectancy of a Celtic manager, to be fair.
Yeah.
Probably not the right expression to use it. A shelf life might have been better rather than life expectancy, but but you know what I mean. So I think, yeah, you've got to look at the here and now with a little bit further down the road, because that's as far as they're going to go with it, in my opinion, anyway, at the minute.
See, just to finish off, Liam, on Rodgers, the big thing I'm seeing, there's a good point there. You try to tell me he wanted Balloon Burke and stuff. I've no doubt that we know that he was hamstrung. He wanted guys like Castagna and stuff, and that dried out. And it got to the stage where it was like, here's your new player, it's Kouassi. Here's your new player, it's Fed. And he's like, what the fuck's this? Right. So what I'm saying is see if a guy like Rodgers could be coaxed back in, whether folk want that or not, it suggests to me he's been given assurances. So what I say to you is, Brendan Rodgers with actual money to spend, what could go wrong?
Peter Lawwell could go wrong. That's exactly what will go wrong. You know,
we could say that about anybody that's in there, though, Liam, can't we?
We can, but there's already a history. Like, you wonder what that conversation's like right now. It's like, okay, like I know I bought you through a few dumplings last time, right? And I shouldn't, you know, I was getting involved when I shouldn't. Like, what the fuck's going to happen? Is he talking to Mark Lyle and just like, listen, you've got to keep your old man away from me. You know, he's upset and everything. You know, he's getting his finger in things, and I don't know. Does he get like a confirmation for Lowell that says, listen, you know, this is your team, I'll get you what you need to. Like, how do you trust that when everybody's lying to you? When everybody, and then you, as Johnny says, you've got this carrot of the EPL or bigger leagues as well, that as soon as you get any sense of success, everybody's wanting you. But by the way, Rodgers is coming on a losing streak. You know, we're getting him again after he's been sacked. You know, there's a big difference when you're leaving Celtic and you've won things and you're going there and you've got momentum and stuff like that. But coming into a place when you're sacked as well, I mean, like, you know, at the end, Rodgers didn't look too clever. Yes, that, you know, at Leicester, he looks like he got a lot of the players he wanted. He looked like he was able to spend. And then what happened? It's like, you know, 3-4 years with Roger as well. It might be but my thing with the 2 year, Johnny, is recruitment. How do you recruit players on 5-year contracts when you're promising them, I'm going to elevate your style of play, I'm going to turn you into a better player, but, you know, 5-year contract, but I'm only here for 2 years maybe. Yeah. You know, I'll be off. But if my value goes up before yours does, I'm off. So, you know, you better make sure that you're playing better than I'm managing, you know. Yeah.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong, Liam. I mean, I don't like the thought of this 2-year shelf span thing that I've just said, but I just think that's going to be the reality that we're going to be stuck with. I mean, whoever we get as the next manager, I don't want a 12-month rolling contract. No. I want him on at least. I mean, you look at Ange; it's a 4-year deal he signed down there today.
Yep.
I mean, it's none of this. Well, yesterday it was 2 years with a possible extension, but today it's from what I heard on TalkSport this morning, 4-year confirmed.
Yep. No.
So I mean, I want whoever we get, Celtic have got to commit fully to a longer term, 3 years. But
see, I'm happy to commit to a longer term, but accept that it could be a 2-year thing. I just want the protection for when they leave.
Yeah.
You know, so
definitely, mate. Yeah.
You spoke about projects. You spoke about 4 or 5 year project, and here's a name that keeps coming up, and one that really compels me, and I want to talk about it because it's Kajal Knutson. Now, I keep seeing his name getting bandied about on social media, and as you'd imagine, everybody's turned out to be this Norwegian football oracle that knows everything about him. I'm not going to be ignorant. I know fuck all about him. I watched his Bodo team play well against us, and I saw them beat a Roma team who didn't give a fuck and then get beat off them later on, and Roma went on and won the trophy. Now, he's a manager, again, in case nobody knows about him. Quick fire stats. He's been at Bodo, 219 games, won 28 wins, 50 draws, 41 losses, which is an average of roughly 2 points per game. Norwegian champions ×2, and a manager of the year ×3. Prior to that, he was at Asania, 69 games, 24 wins, 19 draws, 26 losses, 1.3 points per game, which gives him an all-time, similar to Rodgers, win rate of 50 wins, 28 draws, 22% losses. What's the pros to him? He seems to be attacking, similar to the team that we put out, long-term thinking, and he's been impressive on a limited budget and a small league with a small team. What are the cons? Is there cons? Well, he's still in contract till December 2024, so there's a buyout there. Ajax are apparently sniffing about. And as I say, is he a project manager? Does that suggest that the budget's going to be more shoestring if you get a guy in like that, because he's done so well with limited resources? But the one thing before I ask you about him, there's this fallacy that look at how well he's done in Europe. Well, I looked at how well he's done in Europe. He's played 6 games in the Europa League against Zurich, Arsenal and PSV. 1-1, drew 1 and get scudded 4. qualification for the Europa League. He played Zalgiris, and then get put out of AC Milan. No shame there. Conference League, Zoira, Roma, Sofia, Celtic, AZ, and Poznan. 13 games, 7 wins, 5 draws, and 1 loss. The conference is a different gravy altogether. Celtic ain't going to be playing there, so it's a moot point, and let's face it, a lot of those teams aren't great. And qualifying for Champions League, he's had 9 shots at it. He's won 4, lost 4, drew 1, including getting put out in the first stage by Lech Poznan. Is that great European progress? Is we just looking at him and going, they scudded us, he must be shit hot? Is there any weight in that, Liam? Do you think it's just one of these in vogue names because he reminds us of what we've had before?
I think that's exactly it. I don't see anything in him that we couldn't get out of Ronnie Dyer, right? We could go back and get Ronnie again. That's the same thing that we're getting. In fact, Ronnie's won an MLS championship in that time as well, and he's done well in Belgium. You know, he's just moved into Club Brugge, I think. You know, but I think that's all we're getting, and I think we like the fact that they outplayed us. I think that's it. Like he looked like he out-sussed Ange in that game. And so we're putting a lot of merit on that somehow he's better than Ange overall day to day. He got the best of Ange in one game. And I think because they had a couple of players that were really, really good. That one boy that was running down the right side, the right back, and that was absolutely brilliant. I thought he was a great player. And I think we were in for him at one point. I can't remember, it's Skolzabar or something like that. But what a player he was in that. But that's it. I think this is a desperation that we get Celtic fans where we start pinning hopes and we start fantasizing and imagining attributes to people that they don't really have. You know, when they beat Rome, that was a big scalp. But there's been loads of teams in Europe that have taken on a big team. You know, Transibar and people like that have got results, and Rosenborgs, and you know, it's no unusual for a Norwegian team to come in and get a result. Also, as well, their league is usually going through the summer as well when they pick up these teams like Roma and all that, who might just be starting off, and you know, they're shaking the rust off their feet, you know, in these games, and these guys are, you know, working towards the middle of the end of their season. So that plays a factor as well when you're playing, you know, Scandinavian teams. But yeah, I wouldn't be impressed. I think that's a gamble, that one, and I think we're hoping that lightning will strike twice, and okay, we said we'll be taking scalps like Roma and, you know, and Celtic and stuff like that, but I don't think
that's how it feels to me, mate.
Aye, and I don't know how he'll do recruiting players as well. I mean, Ange had the luxury of having a relationship with the Japanese, and the best recruitment that we did was like these Japanese players that came in. You know, a lot of the other players all came from 1 or 2 limited sources. I mean, we've ended up with, I think we have 3, maybe 4 players now after Ruben Kazan in the Russian league. You know, and you know, there's a bit of dadu going on with that. You know, it'll be interesting to see whose relationship that is. Is that part of the City group? Is that, you know, was Ange involved in any of those transfers like Haksabanovic and Starfelt and that? Because
probably not.
I don't think he was. Yeah. You know, so I'd rule out the Norwegian guy just because I don't know, it's too uphill for him. I think it's too much too soon. It'd be a gamble, you know. Well,
absolutely, as I say, and these are always a gamble, and as I said, might be wrong, but to me it just suggests, as the name was on the lips of Johnny there, he said Dyer. It just sounds like a slightly more established Dyer, and my concern would be the expectancy that, you know, here's a limited budget and go and do what you've done before. And I really don't want that. When we're in a position of strength with vast cash reserves off the back of a treble, guaranteed Champions League, we need a manager that can lift players, inspire fans, that when he walks in, players just go, yes. They don't want a guy who they maybe don't know about that they need to buy into again now. I know we could say that about Ange, but we want to grab those players by the scruff of the neck and instantly put confidence into them. And I think that's a project route. Speaking of project routes, here's another name that I want to put to you, Johnny, is Jesse Marsh. The Ted Lasso jokes you can hold off, but what do we actually know about him? Again, what he loves is this attacking player. He's attacking style similar to Ange, philosophy, blah, blah, blah. But let's look at the key facts. He was at Leeds for 37 games. He won 11, he drew 10, and he lost 16 with a meagre 1.15 points per game. Before that, he was at Leipzig, 20 games, 7 wins, 4 draws, 9 losses. Slightly better, 1.25 points per game. But there, the bit that he was known for was his time at Salzburg, as we well know, where we played Red Bull. 94 games, 64 wins, 13 draws and 17 losses, just over 2.2 points per game, during which he won the Australian Cup and double twice. And he was the manager of the year twice. He came from another Red Bull club, New York, won 51 games, 76 wins, 30 draws, 45 losses, and he was a Charity Shield of America winner, whatever that is, and the manager of the year over there. Where again, similar, the guys have put out to you, Knutson, Rodgers, and now Marsh, similar win rate, 50%, 20% draws and 30 losses. What does he say to you? Is he another big risk? It seems he had a purple patch under a cash-rich Red Bull regime. He's not been able to adapt to a bigger step up at Leipzig, and then certainly flopped at Leeds. And what I certainly did see at Leeds, the questionable cons for me is no plan B. He's an idealist and so stuck in his ways that it ultimately was his demise at, well, Leipzig and then Leeds. Does that do anything for you?
No, I wouldn't want him. Surprisingly, because I was surprised, but down here in Lincoln, there's quite a decent Leeds contingent down here, supporters-wise, and I know 2 or 3 of them I used to work with, and none of them were happy when he got the job at Leeds, and they were all just desperate to get rid of him. Nah, he doesn't float my boat in any way, shape, or form, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
In fact, when you look at it from the Salzburg he was with when he had the really good spell, everything from there has been on a downhill trajectory, I think. So no, I'm not for him at all.
Yeah. Do you think that's do you think the problem we've got is this assumption, again, going back to Marsh and going back to Knutson, that apparently these are guys that play in the mould of what we've just seen, and it's a false economy to think that one size fits all, that these guys come in and it just picks up?
Yeah, probably. It's just that nothing about any of the 2 of them that we just spoke about. Nothing. I don't think they've got the ability that we're looking for. I don't think they've got the charisma, the pulling power, the personality. They just really don't do anything for me. I think one of the Nutsman one, like you said, it was 2 games against us, and the expression we were getting was, "Oh, he out-Anged Ange," and I think that might be what's sticking with people, saying, "Well, if you can out Ange, you can take the players that Ange had and do exactly the same, and it's just a seamless connection, if you like." So no, none of them 2 really do anything for me at all.
Well, we're coming up onto the hour, but before we finish up, I want to throw out one more name, and I'll go to both of you on it, and that is, of course, Graham Potter. Now, we all know Graham Potter was at the shit show that was Chelsea, and he was maybe hard done by. I don't know. Magicians couldn't have fixed that situation, if you ask me. But let's have a wee look at his numbers, because that's what people base things on these days, is it not? Other than just looking at it with your eyes. Chelsea was 31 games, 12 wins, 8 draws, 11 losses, 1.4 points per game. But he was most known for his time at Brighton, in which, let's face it, he took a very average team, played a nice brand of football, and kept them very competitive, and we see how they've kicked on since he's left. 134 games, 43 wins, 43 draws, 48 losses with 1.28 points per game. And prior to that, Swansea, 51, 21 wins, 11 draws, 19 losses. But the one thing, and some of the guys like Knutson, he was at Östersund in Sweden. 224 games, 109 wins, 56 draws, 59 losses, averaging about 1.7 points per game, during which he won the Swedish Cup, Promotions League 1 and 2, and Swedish Manager of the Year ×2. Now, his overall record isn't as high percentage-wise. It's 37 wins, 31% draws, and 32% losses. But the one thing that he did do well in was in the Champions League, and he seemed to get results there with Chelsea, even though it was a really poor stage for him. Is he a name that excites yourself, Liam? Certainly, as I say, as people look at that Chelsea patch and they'll slaughter him for it. But if we want to look at guys like Knutson and sing and dance about what he's done in Norway, well, look at what he's done in Sweden. But he got the step up to go to England and get big jobs in England, whilst Knutson's still scratching his balls and paying £9 for a pint in Norway. So, should we be turning our nose up at? Is he box office? Is he a guy that's going to inspire players? Is he going to attract players? And is he going to install the kind of football that we want?
You don't know, but I think he'll come in and he'll get us close to, I think, a type of football. I think he plays a different system in Ange. I think he plays at 3 at the back. I mean, that might suit us better in Scotland, but, it gets rid of Greg Taylor. He'll not be playing, he can't defend, so...
I know how you like him, mate.
He's your man then, Liam. He's your man.
Hope Ange takes him. I don't know. I don't dislike the boy, but I just think he's a weak defender. He's absolutely tragic as a defender. And so, unless we're playing in Ange's system, then, Greg Taylor as a fullback does not inspire me with any confidence whatsoever. However, Potter, he comes with a pedigree and all that, but I think you're looking at the same thing as Ange. You're looking at, as you said, it's a 2-year shelf life. So how much is he going to come up and spend in Scotland? It's going to be 2 years till like an Aston Villa or a Wolverhampton. Somebody comes in calling for him and he'll be off, just like Ange as well. And so if we're planning on Potter, again, you've got to look at, 2 years. But what does that do with the infrastructure of the club and that? It's almost now that we need a director of football. If we're coming in and we're knowing that our manager is going to be like a 2-year transitory thing, then we have to have a really solid director of football so that there's some sort of continuity, because it's a lot of gambling to be, throwing money at an EPL manager every 2 years, knowing that they're going to call, some of the players that exist and they're going to want to bring in some of their own guys that will come with hefty price tags, especially if they're coming for higher leagues than that, and keeping them happy here in Scotland, going up to plastic pitches and fucking Hamilton and Kilmarnock and shite. That's a hard sell, and the only way you can do that is throwing money. And so we're back into that, paying over the odds for the Shane Duffys and stuff of the world. Does Potter bring Shane Duffy back to Park?
He could be the second coming, and he could be fantastic. Who knows?
You never know. As a back three, that season was mental, but I think that's the thing that you get, that when we do bring in a Potter, again, it's a chance to fall in love with somebody again and then just watch them leave as soon as something more attractive comes. And it doesn't even have to be more attractive, just has to have a better area code and more money. That's all. Well,
the last word on Potter's going to go to yourself, John, before we wrap up today. As I say, we've been through 4. We'll do this again. Does he do anything for you?
I think he would be not a bad shout. Rodgers is still my number 1, but I think Potter would be a decent shout. He doesn't come across with all the greatest personality in the world, but then he doesn't have to, really, does he? But I think his 37% win rates, I know it's less than the other 2 that you spoke about, with 50% and whatnot, the other 3. But you think about the clubs he was manager before, he wasn't expected to, at Swansea, for example.
Yeah, you're swimming in different waters.
And Brighton, you're swimming in different waters. I think at Brighton, if he could have just got himself a decent striker, then his rate might have been better, because that was for some reason that was Brighton's Achilles heel until Potter left, ironically, and De Zerbi went in, and apparently then they started to score more goals. So I think they might have had a better win rate if he'd managed to get a decent striker at Brighton. So I think, and he's well thought of. And I heard first I heard about him was on Hawksby and Jacobs and Talk Sport when he was still in. Was it Sweden he was in, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And they'd done a big profile on him because I think his background was actually teaching. I mean, I don't think he was ever a professional footballer. I think his background was actually in education. But yeah, I think I would take him. But I just wanted to throw one more name out, and Liam's the man who'll be able to give us more information on him. Because during the World Cup, I thought the manager of Canada, is it John? Is it Herdman?
Herdman.
I think he might be worth a look at. Have a look at his figures, Stevo, and let us know what they're like. But Liam, I thought you might know a bit more about him because he came across quite well during the World Cup.
He's came across like that consistently for maybe the last 5 or 6 years. He was actually the manager of the Canadian Women's World Cup team at one point as well. He took them to a title. I don't know if it was Olympics or women's football, right? But he did win a trophy with them. And then very unusually, he went from the women's team to the men's national team. That was the transition. They moved him up there, and he actually got that team to the first final that they've been to in about 40 years. And John Herdman, for me, is very, very much like Ange. In fact, when Ange first came, that's what I was thinking. I thought, that would very much look like if John Herdman was to come to the team. John Herdman's from the north of England. I think he's from Newcastle.
Yeah, he's from Durham.
Is he Durham? Aye.
I'm sure it's Durham.
So I think he'd be fantastic. He knows how to play inverted fullbacks because he already plays with Johnson, but he also plays with Alphonso Davies.
I hope he doesn't, mate. I hope he doesn't. I hope he doesn't.
Aye, but the best. He's got a really good tune out of the Canadian players, and the players, it's a big mixture. It's a golfing talent. You've got guys playing with Bayern Munich, and then you've got guys playing with like CF Montreal, and that's a huge golf if nobody knows, But he's got a good eye for talent. He's recognising young players that are playing he has to scout far and wide to find players with Canadian grannies or anything like that can get a game with Canada. And now we're starting to get Canadian. We're starting to get a really, really good side, and he's galvanizing that. And the type of football that he plays, is very, very attacking. I thought he was unlucky in the World Cup. I think we could have done better, but it was the first chance for any of the boys. The World Cup's here in Canada next year, the next one, and so you're going to see. I don't know if he will leave that. He will probably want to manage Canada.
I would expect so.
Cup, it being at home.
So we can get him in 2 years after the next manager leaves,
You get him in line for the next rotation, isn't it? Well, listen, guys, thank you very much for you guys joining me. I thoroughly enjoyed that. A good wee chat. Always good to have these conversations, even if it's about a situation that's no ideal. And thank you again to everybody else that's watching us. 193 at the moment. We peaked over 200. So thank you very much for taking time out your afternoon to join us. We will be back tomorrow, 1:30 again, for another wee power hour. And I'll have more of these names to discuss. Moyes, Maresca. I'm sure I'll find a few other that are on that list.
Stevie Clark.
Stevie Clark. And we'll chew over the fat of them. Hopefully at that point, John Kennedy will be down in Spurs as well, so you can stop worrying about him. But as we say, listen, we'll be back. This story's rumbling on, and as this story rumbles on, we will continue to be here, and we'll continue to talk about it. So Liam, Johnny, thanks again for joining us. I'll be back 1:30 again tomorrow, and I've got Junior Logue coming on with me to talk managers. So I look forward to that, and hopefully everybody else can come and join us again. Thanks again for your time, everybody. Take care, and I'll see you all later.
Thanks, Stevo.
No worries.